construct those heads, I'm going to walk you through the process. Just kind of start off by deconstructing and introducing the how you create these heads and what they're made up of and stuff. And we're going to be using the pipeline version of Cartoon Animator 4 in this webinar, so just be aware of that. We'll talk about the differences between pipeline and the Pro version a little bit later on as well. Okay, just a little bit about the webinar interface here, Zoom webinar panel. Excuse me, we are also broadcasting this live on YouTube, so you can also check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll be live streaming it. But if you have any questions you want to ask, you must use the Zoom webinar panel. You use the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar panel to ask any questions you want. And I will get to those in the last 10, 15 minutes of the webinar, the last end of this hour here. All right, so any questions you have, please put those in the Q&A section of your Zoom panel there. We're not going to really use the chat window here. So don't put your questions in the chat window, or don't put them onto the YouTube chat, whatever. Please put any questions you have in the Q&A section. Otherwise, I won't be able to respond to them. All right. And like I mentioned, we are broadcasting this on YouTube. We're going to be recording it. We're going to be sending out a link later. So if I go too fast, don't worry about it. You'll be able to review this on your own time. And we also have a plethora of tutorials available for you as well. I'm going to go to the Cartoon Animator web page here and show you where you can find all the tutorials. So on the screen right now, you should see the home page for Cartoon Animator. Just if you go to Reolution here, you've probably been here already. Let's go up here and go to 2D Media, and Cartoon Animator right there. And it'll open up another tab. And then if you want to go to the tutorials, just go to Learn over here and Learn and Tutorials. That's where you found the webinars. Okay. So I'll just provide a link. I'll put this link in the chat window for you, just in case you don't have this. And you can click on this link and go on your own time to check out all of the cool tutorials that we have available. Okay, mostly done by myself and my good friend Anuk, and maybe a couple of other users as well. Okay, so introduction, I think that's about it. We are going to be sending out a survey as well for you guys, just to keep in mind. Now, with this survey, please provide us with any feedback you have, anything you want to talk about in future webinars, any recommendations for future webinars, stuff like that. And we'd be happy to take your input and integrate that into our future webinars, so we can kind of reach more of our users. All right, so again, thanks so much everyone for attending here. I know it's kind of a lazy, I think it's a Tuesday today, right? Yeah, Tuesday for most of us. And a good Happy New Year, 2020 January. Hopefully it's going to be a good year ahead. So let's get started in a webinar here without further ado. All right, so on the main page, we're going to be talking about 360 head creation. Okay, so if you go to features on the main page and 360 head creation, this is what we're going to be talking about throughout this webinar. Just a brief overview here. You can transform a 2D face, a couple of 2D images into a 3D head, and we'll walk you through that process later on, how to quick and easy way to do it. Okay, and there's templates you can provide, you can get as well. This 360 head tools pack right here has a number of different templates. We'll talk about that kind of closer to the end of the webinar as well. And you can kind of walk through all this stuff on your own time. We're going to be just kind of doing a live demo here, so really no need to go through all this, since you can kind of walk through it on your own time. Okay, and here's a bunch of templates, hair tools, face tools, the 360 heads. You can check this out. I'll put this in the chat window as well. This is pretty much if you want to create your own heads. This is a really super useful pack to check out here. I'd highly recommend it, beginners and advanced users alike. You'll find this pack very useful for your own custom creation. And there's a whole bunch of different hair templates as well. But I'm just going to go through the basics here of creating my own custom character. You can see all the cool templates and stuff we have below here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started into the live demo without further ado. By the way, once you fill out that survey for the webinar survey, we're going to send out to you via email. We'll provide you a 10% discount on the content store. So if you want to pick up that pack at an additional 10% discount, you can stack it on top of other discounts. Please fill out that survey for us, and we'll send you that coupon code for the further discount. All right, so again, let's go into the Cartoon Animator 4 main project window here. and we're going to talk about just basically what your characters are made of. Okay, so we're going to deconstruct the character head, and then we're going to go into a bunch of characters, and we're going to create our own custom character in the end. Okay, so under the actor tab here in the content manager, I'm just going to go to my characters. Now you should have a folder called G3 360. All right, and under that we will have a character. You can go to G3 360 humans, and you can see there's a number of different characters here. Now the F on the character indicates it's a front-facing character. The S indicates it's a side-facing character at a 45-degree angle, and the S2 is a 90-degree angle facing character. Okay, you can see the where the character is kind of posed right here. So front-facing, 45-degree, and side-facing. Okay, I'm just going to bring in a very simple character. This is Ted. You may recognize him from previous versions of Crazy Talk Animator. He uses a simple, very, very simple-looking dude. And so here's Ted. And Ted's face is made up of a number of different sprites, which we will talk about in just a moment here. So with Ted, I'm going to go ahead and with him selected, I'm going to go into the composer mode up here on the top left. Okay. So once you go into composer mode is where you do all the editing of your character. So if you want to customize your character, you first need to go into composer mode, and this is where you do all the editing. We can select the character. I'm not going to worry about the bones right now. You can see this character has a number of different yellow bones. We're not going to worry about the bones right now. So I'm going to deselect show bone. Okay. And what I'm going to do is go over here to the layer manager, and we have the head selected. Okay. If we select the body, it's going to show up the body, otherwise known here as the hip layer. Okay. There's a number of different layers, but the talking head is the one we want to focus on right here. Okay. This one. If we select it from the layer manager, you can see the blue selection box will get over it as well. Now, the head is made up of a number of different parts here. So let's zoom in on the head. There's stuff like the eyes. And once you click on it, it'll automatically select in the layer manager here. So there's the left eye, there's the right eye, there's the left brow. There's even this little thing right here, the ear, okay? And there's this front hair right here. So we can select his 3 strands of hair all separately. Okay, let's pan up a little bit here. Front hair 2, front hair, and front hair 1. Okay, and then there's even these little like inserts that that are put in his ear. Okay, so these little things that look like angry eyes when you take them out, but then when you put them in, they can double as an inner ear piece or something like that. Okay, very flexible sprite. So all these different sprites here again correspond to layers in Photoshop, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Now, there's one important thing I want to point out when you're editing your character before we go into any of the creation. If you want to permanently change the position of the sprite on your character's face, I'm going to select show bone for now here. We have their character's face selected here. Actually, it's not going to work because that's different. So, okay, when you have your character with a blue selection box around the sprite here, that means that you're editing your character in bone mode. Okay, so if I move this eyebrow up like this, that eyebrow is going to be there permanently. Now, if I go, let's do something like the eye, for example. Okay, if I select my character's eye, there's a blue selection box. However, if I go over here and I use the Sprite Editor, this is going to edit the actual sprite. Okay, so you can see this character's right eye has a sprite library. There's a number of different sprites. Eye close this way, iris change, eye squint, scare close. Okay, so these are the 6 sprites in this particular character's eye sprite library. Some characters have more, some may have less. The one we're going to create will only have 1, since it's a very simple creation. Okay, and you can select all the different items up here, just like this. Okay, you can see the mouth has a number of different ones as well. Show teeth, smile, open lip, like this. Okay, and some of these are used for facial expressions. Some of them are used for viseme shapes, which are the shapes your character's mouth makes when they try to pronounce words like ooh, ah, and e. Okay, you can see them right here. There's the e and the ooh and the f or the v. Okay, those are used for automatic lip sync. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk. I forgot to mention here, when I move or resize any of these sprites, now you can see there's a green selection box around it. Okay, I want to differentiate between the blue selection box and the green selection box because I get asked this question very often, especially at beginner level. The green selection box will modify that particular sprite. Okay. Now, if I want, what I can do here is I can just go ahead and resize this sprite like that and make it larger. Now, notice if I go like this, the other sprites are going to be the same size. However, that single sprite is going to remain larger, just like that. And I can take it back to my regular size, just like this. Okay. I can move it down here. If I move it down there, for example, all the other sprites will remain in position, but that sprite will be down there. Okay. So whenever you have a green selection box, what's happening is it's moving, it's modifying or changing that individual sprite. It's not changing all the sprites. If I permanently wanted this character, say he was like Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame or something like that, if I permanently wanted all his eye sprites to be lower, then I can go and go out of sprite edit mode. And now you'll see it's a blue box. Okay. And I move down like this. And then if I go into the sprite editor, then all of my eye sprites are going to be down there. Okay, so I've got a lot of emails and questions from people saying, hey, what's the difference here? And this is a very simple explanation that kind of goes into shows you the basics, anyways. Okay, so that's how you can permanently modify any of the sprites, and that's because the bone is anchored to in the blue mode, in the blue selection mode. When you move it, you're actually moving the bone. You're not moving the individual sprites. Okay, so that's deconstructing TED here. Let's go right now into the different character. But before I do that, I'm going to go back into stage mode here on the top left, back to stage mode here. And I'm going to apply a couple of animations to TED just to see him in action here. So we'll go to our animation tab. And what I'm going to do is just load up TED real quick. And load up a perform motion, actually. Perform motions, by the way, they include both body and facial animation, okay? Regular motions here are just for the body, and then the separate face ones. And perform will be both body and face, and some of them will have audio attached too. If I go to perform G3360, for example, let's go ahead and try like this Roger one, okay? Roger talk, for example. If I double click that, oops, we need to have our character selected first. Just double click that and it'll apply to TED here.
Trust me, you can animate the first time too.
Right, so you can see our character's facial expressions changing. The facial sprites are changing as he talks. So if you want, you can click and drag in the timeline at the bottom here, and you can move it one by one or frame by frame. You can see here the sprite changes. The eyes actually flex as well. So the eye sprites remain the same, but they're kind of flexing. All right, they're kind of morphing from one to the next. Okay, and we'll talk about a little bit more about facial animation at the end. You'll see my ugly mug do a little bit of a facial mocap. All right, so we're going to get into that a little bit later on as well. All right, so that's TED. We can apply another animation to him really quick, maybe something like, I don't know, Roger refuse. Okay.
No. I will not eat green eggs and ham.
Okay, so that's just another example of an animation applied to the character and facial animation as well. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and delete TED, or what was his name? TED, yes, TED on the screen right there. And next thing we're going to bring in is we're going to bring in Sandy. All right, so I'm going to go back into my actor tab here and character G3360. There under G3360 human, there's a folder called miscellaneous here. I'll move this over so you can see all the names of the folders. So everyone should have these folders as default in Cartoon Animator 4. And I'll just take Sandy Girl. We'll bring her into the scenes, double click her, or you can also click and drag your character as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take our character here and just show her a couple of examples here. Now, you can also use the face key editor to animate your character. I'm going to show you an example of that. Facial animation using the facial key editor really quick. The facial key editor is down here. You can also use the Control K hotkey to bring it up. And with the facial key editor, you can see here, whoops, we have a number of different tabs: morph, template, transform, and deform. If you have any questions about those, I can answer those later in the Q&A section, but we're going to focus on the creation of the head, not really the animation so much with this particular tool anyways. Excuse me. Okay, so I have this little gizmo at the bottom here. You can click and drag that gizmo and you can move your character in various ways, and you can see that she basically goes at a 90, basically all the way to 90 degrees to the side facing. Okay, so some of the characters have even more than that. Some of them have less. Okay, you can see the sprites and everything move as we rotate this around. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be focusing on creating a 360 head in the first part of this webinar. We'll get to that just a moment here. So you can just go ahead and do that. We'll apply a quick animation to her just so you can see she's also animatable, fully animatable. If we do something like Martha Gossip, I don't know.
Oh my goodness. You don't say.
Okay. So you get some, very interesting facial expressions. He's actually missing a tooth there, which is kind of cool. 90 degrees right there, basically. So yeah, all those characters can be animated, full facial animation capabilities. And I'll show you how to create one as we move along here. One final character I want to show you here is Roger. And the reason I'm going to show you this character is because we're going to talk about masking. Okay. So in G3 360 Human, let's just bring in Roger front facing here. And Roger front facing, we're going to launch him in Photoshop actually in just a moment. But before we do that, I'm going to go into composer mode again with Roger. And you can see Roger will have a lot more facial elements. He'll have, we're going to kind of compare the facial sprites in Cartoon Animator 4 with the layers in Photoshop. So if we go to our layer manager again here, you can see Roger will have a lot more different, front hair 2, front hair 2 underscore 2, all these different hairs. He's got a lot of hair. Okay. You can see the various hair sprites that Roger has. This one over here, we can take out his stylish little tuft of hair there in the middle, and they can, they're all kind of attached to each other. So if we take this one part, you can see we just have this remaining right there. So you can attach different hair parts to each other as well. Another thing to notice here is there's an option here on the very far right of each sprite. There's you can see right now it says unmask. If we take our front hair and we unmask it, what's happening is it's actually masking a certain part of the hair. This one is unmasked. Now, when you mask it, basically every element of the face, if it has this black mask, if its mask is toggled on, it's not going to be able to be shown beyond the border of the face. So you're wondering, what is the face? It's this talking head right here, okay? So if you just look at this little icon here, it's just basically the face, okay? Anything that goes beyond the border of the face and it's not masked, it'll show up like this, okay? So this front hair item right here. But if we mask it, notice it'll be masked beyond the border of the face. We can still see it down here, but if we take it up here, it'll be masked, okay? So we won't be able to see it beyond the border of the face. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's masking. We'll talk a little bit about masking later on. It's not too complicated, but I just wanted to kind of show you that. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit now about the difference between the Pro version and the pipeline version. The pipeline version, the huge advantage of the pipeline version, I'll just go to that page really quickly to show you. If you go over here to features, you can go to pipeline feature, okay? And you can see this here. You're able to import Photoshop files as templates, okay? So when you get the pipeline version, it'll provide you with some templates that you can import in. And these are also the templates that are available in that this content pack that I showed you earlier, this G3 360 head tools. So it'll come with some files. You can just kind of click and drag them in as Psd files. You can export them to Photoshop as well. So if I want to, in the pipeline version, I'm able to do that. In the Pro version, I will have this tool here, Launch to External Image Editor. And what this will do is whatever you have selected, it'll launch that to the external image editor, which in this case is Photoshop. Okay, so say I had only the Pro version and I wanted to launch my face, I would launch to external image editor like this, and it'll open up Photoshop and it'll just launch my face background. Okay, so if you're customizing your characters, it really is beneficial to have the pipeline version because you can export the entire character at once. You can import the entire character at once as a PSD file. That's the hugest benefit with the pipeline version. Okay, and you can also, there's a couple of other things here as well. You can import your 3D motions onto G2 characters. Keep this in mind. You can't import them onto Cartoon Animator 4 characters just yet, but you can import your 3D iClone motions to G2 characters, okay? And if you want an example of that later, I can show you. It's just very easy. I've used it multiple times in other projects. If you have a client that's saying, this looks good, but can we have the character at a different angle? then, you know, sometimes you're stuck, but if you had the G2 characters, they're 3D. So they can rotate 360 degrees, their full bodies and their faces and everything. Okay, and this one here, not a lot of people use this, but you can use design your vector content to be compatible with multiple render styles. We can talk about that later on. All right, but let's go back here and let's get started on creating our own character. Before I do that, I'm going to show you the comparison between the sprites here in Cartoon Animator and the layers in Photoshop. So if you have the pipeline version, oops, what the, seems like my, oh, something got disconnected on my power source. I do not want to run out of power when I'm doing this webinar here. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, there we go. Okay, I guess I kicked it accidentally. All right, so back to the webinar here. You want to launch the Psd editor here, okay? So we just launch that. And the image scale, will just keep it at 1. You can see the PSD resolution right here. You can launch the head and body in 2 separate files, all right? You can, or launch them in 1 single file, all right? And we're only editing the current angle. Don't worry about all this stuff for now, okay? And we'll just go ahead and launch it. So what this will do is this will launch the entire template in Photoshop. And you can see here, if I just zoom in really quick here and pan up, take a look at the hair. This hair item right here is called the layer front hair _ 2. All right, and you can see it extends way beyond the face. That's why we need the masking, okay? So the masking is something that's done in Cartoon Animator 4. The front layer, this one right here, this is the one we were messing around with earlier called front hair 4, and it has something called layer 3 through 5. That's the actual name of the item right there. You can move that around too. And again, that's corresponds with the sprite in Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, but the sprite will be called front hair 4. Whatever you have, whatever your sprite's name is, will be in the folders. Okay, so the folder name is the sprite name. Okay, don't worry about the name of the image underneath it. The folder is the most important thing. And you have to make sure that all your images, all your layers are merged within these folders. So you can't have multiple images within a single folder. And it's a bit more complicated, but we can talk about that later on. And notice I showed you earlier that the difference between bone edit mode and sprite edit mode. So the bones are these yellow things right here. Okay, these are the bones. Now these won't show up when you're in Cartoon Animator 4. Let me show you where it is in the structure here of your characters and layers. So there's RL bone human. We don't have to worry about that. That's just the body parts. Okay, so that's all the body stuff. If we make that invisible, it's going to get rid of our body bones there. Okay, very simple. We're not going to talk about that in this webinar. But under RL talking head, if we twirl that down, we have head bone. Okay, there's a number of different bones here. And there's right, left, and center. That's we don't worry about that right now. That's for different angles. So head bone will show all the bones. Okay, so if we have our bone, we have a bone for every single sprite, as you can see here. So the bone for the right eye is this one right here. You see if I make it visible or invisible, that yellow crosshair will be visible or invisible. If we change the location of this bone, it's going to change the performance of the eye in Cartoon Animator 4. I don't want to do any examples of this right now. If you want to learn more about it later, you can ask in the Q&A section. I just want to kind of speed through the next part here, which is actually creating the head. But before we created the head, I kind of wanted to give you a background on all the, basically deconstruct the structure of the head, so it's kind of easier to understand. Okay, so again, these bones are in the head bone folder, but they won't show up in Cartoon Animator 4. The only thing that will actually show up are the items here in the RL image folder, and these are the actual sprites. Okay, so we have a sprite for, you know, the hand, the face, everything like that, left foot, all this fun stuff. Okay, and the sprites for the head are in this center. Okay, so we have front hair, like I mentioned. If we click on this eye, you'll see that it's the actual iris. This one right here is the actual eye. Seems like we can't click it from there. Okay, and we can move that around and all that stuff. But again, I just want to show you the sprites correspond with the layers in Photoshop under RL talking head and center. The bones are under the other one. RL image is just for the body stuff. Okay, so RL image, if we take that out, you can see all the body's gone. Center is where all the face sprites are. Head bone is where all the head bones are. Okay, hopefully that's clear as mud. Again, you can always review it later on or ask me any questions in the Q&A section. But it'll hopefully become clear as we create our own character. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go back to stage mode here, and we'll just delete our character. We don't really need this dude on the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a folder here. I have a number of different PSD files available or that I've created here, okay? So this character is kind of a low resolution image, but it looks like the character Barrett from Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite video game characters. You can see right here. It's kind of a low resolution image, so apologies for that. But we're going to recreate this. We're going to basically transform this into a 360 head in Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, so let's get started. And you can see the PSD file right here. I'm just going to click on that and open it. And you can see, here it is. Let's just pan up. And you can see that, yes, there's obviously a problem with the masking. It hasn't been masked. But you can see here that there's no head bones, but we have, or rather the head bones are all made invisible right now. We can make those visible by showing them up like this. Okay, you can see those yellow crosshairs. And again, the same structure right here. This is the PSD template that I've used. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to import in this PSD file, and we're going to basically create the 360 head from scratch. So again, what I've done is I've just replaced all these images that I showed you earlier. We could just as easily export head or export whoever and just replace all of the images inside head image. Okay, all these items right here can be easily replaced. Excuse me. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get to importing that PSD file. We don't need to save it for now. We don't need this dude on the screen right now. Get out of here, Roger, and your face too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is quick and easy to import a head. All you have to do is click and drag the PSD file directly into stage mode. Okay, so you can see the PSD file right here. We'll just click and drag it directly in, and there it is. And what happens when you click and drag it directly into stage mode is it'll go automatically into composer mode because it wants to, you know, do the composer stuff, the editing and stuff like that. So that should any moment here. I think I might have messed something up by not charging my computer fully. All right, there we are. Now in composer mode here. Okay. And in composer mode, you'll notice that, hey, this, you know, we need to get the masking taken care of. So let's go ahead and do that. With the head selected here, you can see the front hair. If we go to our layer manager here, the front hair, notice that over here, it's currently set to unmask. I'm not sure why my cursor is like that, but currently it's set to unmask, okay? If I click mask, what's gonna happen? It's gonna mask, like I mentioned, everything according to the shape of the face, the outline of the face, which is in this case, talking head. Okay, if we want, the nose currently is in front of the mustache, we can take the nose behind the mustache or wherever we want. We can move the nose around like this. I have to get rid of that processing cursor at some point here. Yeah, okay, so all the masking stuff you can mask just like this, like I showed you before with the Roger example. And that's the character basically all set up. And all the layers are, well, all the items here, all the sprites are on different layers. And we can mess around with the layers, but I'll show you a little bit later how to modify the layer order to create the best 360 head shape, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm going to, first of all, go into 360 head creator mode here on the left, okay? So once you've imported your character from the PSD file, go over here to 360 head creator. And that'll load up in just a moment here. And we're gonna get around to setting up our character in 360 mode. I might need to see what's happening with the processing thing here. Might need to restart that a little bit. It doesn't take this long. Let's go ahead and do that, actually. Okay, that's just kind of closed. All right, so I'm gonna just load up Cartoon Animator 4 really quick again. Sorry about that, guys. I think that's something to do with my lack of battery power, perhaps. Okay, so let's go ahead and import in that PSD file again. Again, it's a simple process, just like this. And there, that's a lot faster. And it'll go into composer mode a lot faster. All right, that's how it should be. Okay, so again, same process. We want to go to the layer manager, make sure that our front hair is masked, and then get around to, we're going to go ahead and enter into 360 head creator mode. Okay, now there's two modes in 360 head creator. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot more detailed tutorials on this in our learning center there. So I recommend checking those out if you want to review, but this one's fairly easy. On the top, there's two different modes. There is the quick head turn setup, which will only allow you to have 4 different points. Okay, you can see left, right, bottom, and top. And this, once you go into this mode, you can set it up really easily. So you can go over here to the left. You can see the upper point and the lower point. These are actually pretty good. It doesn't really seem like these need to be modified very much. Okay, so it's a smart program. It's automatically set those up. But left and right probably would need to be modified slightly because his head seems very elongated, almost like a cake or something. I'm getting hungry looking at his head. I want to eat that head. All right, anyway, so you can move that that one sprite. In this case, the sprite over here is called the back hair. So you can see just like this, you can move it anywhere you want. But in this case, we'd probably want to move it to a bit more value, something like this. Okay, and if you want, you can resize it as well. You can make it thinner, so it's not protruding as much. But now he kind of looks like a cone head. So I'd probably want to just take it back down to its roughly the original size. Okay, something like this would be just fine. Okay, and that'll save it. Okay, and we go to the right side here and do the same thing. We can just maybe take it a little bit thinner, move it down like this, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Now, another thing to mention here is you can set your maximum angle as well. Over here, now I have the right point selected. If I set the maximum angle to something stronger, you can see that'll allow your character to turn further. But in some cases, in this case, you'd have to morph the nose as well, like I just did with the back here there. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep this at 40. Okay, 40 is a default value, and it still allows for a fairly good 360 result. When you're previewing. Speaking of previewing, let's go ahead and do that now. So we've set 4 points. We can preview. There you go. Okay, now the ears, you'll notice the ears are a little tricky. The ears kind of disappear when we go into certain profiles. So this looks okay, like this right here, but as soon as he goes over here, the ears will disappear. And that's something that we don't want. So we're gonna have to go into the other editing mode. So let's go ahead and apply this. And we're gonna go into the more advanced editing mode here. Now you can see the bones here will show up in composer mode here. If you don't want the bones to show up, you can just deselect show bones on the top here. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and start on this character's head profile, or 360 profile. Okay, so the first thing we're at the center point right here. The first thing we want to do is I normally start at the left point or something like that, and then mirror it to the right. Okay, so I'm going to go here to the left. And I think, everything on the left looks pretty fine, except, one problem is his ear has disappeared, okay? So you can see in the middle point, his ears are shown up, or his ears are visible. On the left point, his ears are invisible. So what you need to do is you'll notice here that on this point right here, the ears are still below the what's called the front hair, okay? So this front hair right here, if we take it off, he's going to look like he's just, I don't know, really weird looking, okay? He looks a lot better with the beard. So we'll keep that front hair on there. And what we're going to do next is you can see the left ear and the right ear are below the front hair, which is fine. Okay, we can fix this a little bit later on. But on the left point, it's obviously we don't want the ear to be below the front hair because it'll just make it disappear. So what I need to do in this case is take his left ear, and I'm going to click and drag it above the front hair. Okay, boom. Suddenly we can see his ear. And if we preview, what's going to happen, you'll see it'll kind of pop right there. It'll kind of disappear and then pop right there. All right. Now we'll talk about how to fix the popping in a little bit, but you can see now we have this right here where the ear is showing up, and that's what we want. Okay. So we'll just do that for now. And the next thing we're going to do is take we'll go to the bottom left maybe, And we need to do the same thing. Okay, so the bottom left, we're going to take that that head part there and bring it back down just like this. So it doesn't look like he has a weird elongated head. I'm thinking of like cake again here. Oh, goodness. All right. We'll take that back down and take his left ear again and click and drag the layer above the front ear, or above the front hair rather. So same thing we did with the left point, but now we're on the bottom left point. And we can do the same thing with the top left point. Okay, so the top left point, you can see the ear is way down there. All we have to do is click and drag that left ear above the front hair. Shazam. Now you can see this left ear is not really in the proper place. We don't really want it to be here. We want to move that left ear. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you quickly how to use this mode called, what was it called again? Onion layer mode. Okay, I was going to say wireframe mode. Onion layer mode, okay? So onion layer is kind of a traditional technique used in animation where you quickly look at the previous frame and go to the next frame and you know, go back and forth. But if we use it here, we had the top left select, we use onion layer, and we click on the left, you'll see it'll kind of show a shadow, an onion layer of where the left point ear is positioned, okay, which is right here. Now, what I want to do first is at the left point here, I want to move the ear a little bit further back, just like this as well, okay, because it looks like it's too close to his eye. So we're going to move it right there. I'm going to select the left point here and use onion layer. And you can see here that the left is still selected. What we need to do is we need to bring this left top ear up here, okay? And we'll probably rotate it a little bit as well, just like this, just so it looks like a little more in position like that, okay? Then we take off the onion layer mode. Something like that would do, okay? So we have this, and the bottom one. Again, let's do the onion layer mode for this. You can see the side view right there. So the bottom, we want to move it again a little bit over this way. And we can move it slightly, you know, tilting this way as well. I think that'll be just fine. Okay, so we'll get out of onion layer mode here and we'll preview from there to there. Okay, and I think that looks pretty smooth. Okay, there you go. We have the left side pretty much taken care of. And again, there's that clipping like this, clipping, which we'll take care of in the next step here, in this step after this next step. The next step we're going to use is mirroring. Let's focus on the bottom and the top first here as well. So I think the bottom, that looks okay. Top, I'm going to move these ears up here. And the bottom, we want to have the ears above the front hair, I think, too, as well. So what I'm going to do is at the bottom here, I'm going to move both my left ear and my front right ear above front hair, okay, just like this. And I think that looks okay. For the top, we're going to leave everything behind the front hair. And we're going to just kind of position these ears a little bit higher as well. Something like that. Generally, this character doesn't have eyebrows, but generally your ear, the top of your ears will kind of be a little bit below your eyebrows. We can add eyebrows to this character a little bit later on, but I think that looks okay. And again, if you want, you can resize them to make them smaller, you know, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so let's preview really quick. There we go. I think it looks good. Okay, just that popping issue. Okay, well, let's start on mirroring. Okay, since I don't want to do the same process again. I mean, you could sit here and watch me do it, but I think mirroring is a lot faster and a lot easier. So let's do that. Let's mirror all of these left side points to the right side. Okay, so I'm going to select the talking head, and on the left here, left point, let's go up here to mirror, right? Mirror. And what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to select a mirror target all, okay? And I'm going to take off the sprite, okay? We don't want to mirror the sprite in this case. We just want to mirror the layer order, okay? That's the most important thing, mirror the layer order. We want to mirror the transform position and the deform position. Deform is if you modify the shape of the item, like you make it smaller or you know, thinner or something like that. And transform is just the position of the sprite, okay? And the layer is the layer order. We're not going to do the sprite in this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that. It's going to apply to the right side there. You can see that now the ear is in position on the right side. It automatically jumps to the right side right there. All right, and that's fine. So let's do the left side again, left top side here. And we're going to use the same settings. We're going to go apply, and it's going to mirror the exact same thing to the right side. And bottom left, and go ahead and apply. All right, So you can see now, if we can close down our mirror options, if we preview, now we have everything on this side and this side looks fine. Okay, again, that popping issue is something that I'll show you how to fix right now. Okay, so just like this, and we're good to go. Now, to fix the popping issue, what you want to do is there's this little item up here called weight. Okay, so you can basically adjust when the layers will change. Okay, what this weight thing does here is it'll bring up a kind of a graph like this, a graph mode. And what you want to do is you just want to kind of modify all of these modes right here. Now, we want to make sure that our ears are unmasked for sure, otherwise they'll disappear beyond the border of the face. But if we preview, you can see what's going to happen is in this, like, for example, we have the center point selected, okay? The center point selected, and around the center point, there's this pink area here. And this pink area is the position where if we move our cursor like this, as soon as we cross the border of this pink area, the layer order is going to change to the one that we defined on this right point, okay? So within this pink area, the center layer order that we have, which is all this layer order, is going to change. If we go to the right, you can see that the layer order is different here, all right? So right here, the face is down below. Right here, which one's different here? The front hair is up there, the nose is at the top. Okay, this one, the right eye and the right brow are above everything, okay? So that's the way we want it. However, in some cases like this, the ear position changed. Okay, so this one we took the left ear again. We put that above the face. Okay, so left ear, or rather, the left ear is above the front hair. Okay, and that's the way we want it. However, we want to change when that. We want to modify when that sprite will change or when that layer order will change. Okay, so right now you can see if we preview, right there, it's popping at that position right there. So it's popping from there to there. And that's something that we want to fix. Okay, so from there to there, we want to make sure that we have it a little. We want to make it maybe a little bit closer to the center area. We want to change to the left ear order, or the left point layer order for the ear. A lot of words to say there. Words are hard sometimes. Anyways, okay. So what we want to do is, you can see if we cursor over the border right there, it'll change our cursor to this one right here, where we can modify it. We can make the position a little bit closer to the center here. Okay, and if we do that, what's going to happen is, notice that it'll pop right here. Okay, so it'll pop a little bit closer. We probably need to even a little bit closer than that, because there's still noticeable pop from here to there. Okay, so what we could do is we could just take it and make it even further, even closer to the center, just like this. Okay, so there. A little bit easier, okay? So not as noticeable. And again, it may even need to be a little bit closer. And you can work on, modifying the layer and the position and stuff like that. But that's kind of the point right there, okay? So a lot less noticeable. If we do it smoothly like this, notice the difference now between his left ear, which is pretty nice smooth transition like that, and the right ear still pops. The right ear still pops right there, okay? So again, let's take that right point, and or that we can even take the center point, doesn't really matter, and move it closer like this. Okay, and then if we preview, there you go, it looks a lot smoother. Okay, so not as much popping. Hopefully that kind of is, you're able to see that on in the webinar. It's not too laggy for you there. Okay, and everything else seems fine and dandy. If we just take a little 360 view here, I think I'm pretty happy with this. And you can also, change the top and the bottom order as well. So this one here, maybe the popping is a little bit more noticeable right here as well, going down from here. So if we take that position right here, we can change that strength. There we go. Something like this. If we did that, there you go. A little bit less noticeable. Okay. All right. So that's how you can get rid of all that popping stuff, all that popping nonsense. And yeah, that's basically your 360 head. So there we have our character, good rotation. We have 40 degrees this way, 40 degrees that way, all this stuff. I think we're good to go. Okay. So that's our face. That's all the face stuff we need to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and get out of the head creator now. I'm going to show you how you can modify the face further before we do some facial animation. If I take my character and go back into stage mode, keep in mind this currently is a character, even though it has no body, okay? You can see the selection box will be longer because it actually has a skeletal structure, a body skeletal structure, but we don't need that. We only want the head. So what we need to do is we need to save this now as a custom head. And the way we do that is we go over here to our actor tab and we go to the custom tab up here. And with head selected, very important to have the head folder selected, not the character folder. Okay, you can see I have some custom characters, but with the head folder selected. Okay, I'm just going to overwrite this Barrett one that I already have saved. Okay, we can just a good look at him right here. There he is, big old mean Barrett, and just press the plus key. Okay, and we're going to overwrite this character. Let's have to make sure it's selected first. Okay, yes, I'm going to overwrite it. There you go. Okay, so there's our Barrett head. Now that it's saved, we can just go ahead and delete him. We don't really need him on the screen, and the head is saved. We can go back and modify that in 360 mode later on to refine it if we want, but that's a quick and easy, simple process. Okay, so let's go ahead and load in a character's body, and we'll replace the head. Okay, so in this character folder here, I have I've purchased this content pack from the content store called G3 360 characters. It's called Vector Buddies. Okay, and you can find that in the content store. I'm going to choose a character with the same skin tone for the body and everything like that, since we don't really have time to modify the body. Right, so I'm just going to throw in Chad front-facing character. Right, and then we're going to do off with his head. We're going to take off his head and replace it with Barrett's head. Some gruesome surgery. So let's go here to actor again, to custom and custom head, and we can just double click on Barrett, the head that we saved with Barrett, and there you go. It's positioned a little bit differently because so it looks like he has a really long neck. But if we want to customize that, we can modify it in composer mode. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. Again, take our character into composer mode, and I'm going to show you how to quickly modify the body, and then we will do some facial animation. Okay. So Barrett's face, we'll take it down like that. There you go. We can make it smaller if we want as well. It doesn't have to be over cartoon sized large. There you go. All right, I think I'm fine with that. If we want to modify the body, by the way, we can do so as well. We can select our characters, our body right here. And, we can do this. I'll do this using the non-pipeline way, okay? You can also do it using the pipeline method like I showed you before, but I'll do it using the external image editor. So for pro version, you can do this as well, okay? And it'll just launch that tip, okay? And what we can do is just, I'm gonna take an image from my folder here of pancakes and just bring it on here. And we're gonna make it seem like he works at a pancake house or a waffle house or something. So we'll just take that delicious looking pile of pancakes there and just place it right over there. And let's just add some text in here. We'll call it Ted's Waffle House. All right, and I'm gonna move this over here, and maybe we'll just make it a little bit, we'll make it arced a little bit. So you get some design. So we'll do like an arch. There you go. Ted's Waffle House, and we can make it a wee bit smaller, just a wee bit smaller. All right, and there you go. Okay, so if I go ahead and press File, go up to File and Save, what's going to happen is we can save it as an image here. And then, so if you're using the PSD mode or the pipeline mode, like I showed you earlier, this would automatically update. What I'm going to do here is we have to save it as a separate image. So I'm just going to save it as a, whatever PNG file is fine. Okay. And we'll just save it just like that. Okay. Doesn't really matter the rest of it. And then in, well, actually, it will automatically update here in Cartoon Animator. But you can see the arm is actually above the body there. So again, what we could do is just take the hip layer and move that above the arm if we wanted to in the layer manager, or take his arm, which is his right arm, I believe. Yep, right arm layer, and just take that and move it below the hip layer. There we go. And Now Ted's Waffle House appears on his shirt. All right. So it does automatically update in Pro mode. All right. Don't worry about that. Just make sure you save it as a PNG. Okay. So that's it for the body editing. For face editing, we can go ahead to our content manager. And let's go to our head tab for the content manager. I'm going to quickly replace his eyes and mouth, I guess. Because right now the character currently only has one mouth sprite. If we select the mouth and go into Sprite Editor, you can see that in the Sprite Editor, I showed you all of Ted's mouth sprites before. This guy only has the one. So it's a very simple character. We've only replaced the one sprite. If we go into like these other ones here, nothing will show up because they haven't been loaded in with a sprite yet, okay? The only one that'll show up is normal. However, if I replace it with one of the templates, which again is why that pack I mentioned before is really useful. Let's go to head, let's go to mouth, and the G360 character vector buddies. We'll just go ahead and double click on this mouth thing right here, and it'll replace our character's mouth. Now, again, keep in mind that the mouth position has changed here, okay? So it's changed down there. If we take it and make sure it's a blue selection box again, we can move it up here, and that's going to move the entire bone, okay? And we'll just make it a little bit larger, just like that. And there you go. Now, if we go into the sprite edit mode, you will have a number of different sprites for the face, or for the mouth rather, okay? Cool stuff. All right, maybe even make it a little bit smaller. Just like this, and there we go. A wee bit smaller. There you go. And just reposition it. Okay, and then we can also replace the eyes as well the same way. Because the eyes, there's only a single sprite as well. So I'm just gonna go to the eyes here. Let's go into the same one here. We can just replace them with these weird looking front-facing eyes here. Let's do these ones here. And again, you can reposition and resize these eyes individually as well if you want. We'll just probably, let's resize these. We'll lock the, just remember the number here that we have in. 22, let's just enter a value of 22. Just keep those eyes a little bit, not too big, all right? So we'll take this one, do the same thing, enter in 22 here, and we'll move it over here. All right, I'm just eyeballing this, all right? Now he looks a little freaky, he looks a little bit lost. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some eyebrows on him. You'll be surprised at how eyebrows change the face of a person. If you have no eyebrows, it looks a little different, okay? So we'll take these other eyebrows here from another pack. This is from our Campus Hero pack, content pack. And we'll just throw these on there. Let's do the flat ones here. These bad boys, and then we'll have to reposition them as well. There you go. So let's rotate them a bit, reposition them, resize them. There you go. Again, I'm just kind of spitballing this. It's not going to be meant to be too accurate or anything. There you go. Whoops. So his eyebrows are different a little bit. That's okay. Try and get them as, and again, you can use these values up here to refine the positions, the X positions, and it's going to be a little bit higher. All right, anyways, that's what we got. So now we have a fully animatable face. We can go back to stage mode here, and then I'll do the last 5 minutes of just kind of doing some animations here. The sun's already set over here, so I'm not going to get any natural light on the west coast here. But if we want, we can do some quick facial animation. Again, I showed you the face key editor. You can use the face puppet tool as well. Okay, use the face puppet and just preview. Right, so there's our character's face. You're like, hey, whoa, right? So pretty cool stuff. You can use a happy template. Okay, pretty simple stuff. I'm not going to worry too much about how to modify the face animation or to use the face puppet tool because we're going to use some facial mocap. I think that's what we wanted to focus on for the last 5 minutes or so here. All right, so hopefully the lighting is bright enough. I didn't really test this in this kind of lighting, but all right, so again, you will have to have the plugin for this, the facial mocap plugin called Motion Live 2D right here. And we go down to, that'll come with something called this face 3D tracker. All right. Now this uses a webcam to do facial animation. You can also use an iPhone if you want, but I like this webcam one. So there's me right there. Lighting is not too bad. Okay. So right now, status is disconnected. Don't worry about that. We'll connect it a little bit later on. You can see there's some green points around my facial features, like my eyebrow there. So these green points are just basically tracking my facial features. The most difficult one is the mouth because I'm talking at a regular speed here. Ooh, okay. But you can see the points right there. You can change the resolution if you want. I honestly think the smoothest results come from a higher resolution if possible. You can choose like this resolution here. You may have more jittery results when you use this lower resolution. So I tend to use a high resolution myself. Okay. And yeah, rotation 0 degrees. You can show marker, show info, whatever you want. Just very basic settings. Nothing really modifies the result too much, except for the resolution. The resolution does change the result, and that we can experiment with that later on if you want. But you want to make sure you have this Face 3D tracker. Let's move it over here, and let's make it a little bit smaller. And let's take a Cartoon Animator and make this a little bit smaller so you can see my face and Barrett's face at the same time. No, I don't want that. All right, that should be good. All right, we'll zoom in a little bit more on his face there. Okay, so I just have basically a lamp with what I recommend for in terms of lighting is to have, ideally you want to have natural like outdoor lighting. So your face is facing like a window or something, which mine is, but it's dark. Aside from that, you can get like a regular lamp or like try to get like an LED light, but you can put a paper, like a piece of paper, like tape a piece of paper over top of it to make it more uniform. The thing you want to avoid is shadows, because if you have dark shadows on your face, like if I go over here, I can't really create a shadow on my face with the light over there. But yeah, the shadow behind me, for example, if that was on my face, you wouldn't want that because it kind of messes with the tracking points. So what we want to do now is go up here to plugins and Motion Live 2D, Motion Live 2D. And you can see here, we have the option for a gear list. Let's put this right there. I think that's fine. Okay, so there's facial capture. We can just do that right here. And you want to choose your character. This character happens to be named Chad. Okay, since that's the character, we didn't rename the character. And you want to make sure that Chad is using the Face 3D capture for the face. Okay, and our face profile is front facing, so we'll just keep the front facing profile. The mapping and stuff like that, we don't really have much time to talk about it right now. The most important thing here is to set a 0 pose. Now you can also record audio as well. You can choose smooth head. Smooth head sometimes is a fairly good, if you use smooth head with lower resolution, that ends up kind of making a big difference, making a better result if you have a lower resolution webcam. But I think most webcams are at least 1280 by 720. Blend data on next recording, don't worry about that. That's just if you do multiple recordings and you want to layer on top of them, you can use that. Here we can select lip sync, yes or no. Okay. I tried to use like a lower level of lip sync. I'm going to do a quick example of a lip sync here. And so let's go ahead and do that. I'm just recording the audio. Okay. We can do lip sync separately and we can do it together. And I'll show you, I think we have time for both maybe. Let's just do this one first. Okay. So if I preview right now, okay, I can move my head from side to side. And you can see with smooth recording, it's going really slow, okay? But this is actually not a bad thing. If it goes really slow, you can speed it up later on if you want. But if I stop previewing right now and we go to take off smooth head and preview now, you see we can go a lot faster, okay? So it'll track my head movements and my eyes. Okay. There's my mouth. Now, this is without even calibrating. So what I want to do first is you want to use this option up here, which is set 0 pose, okay? You want to make sure that your face is centered and with a neutral expression like this. And then set 0 pose. Okay, and then your movement's going to be a lot better and a lot more accurate, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and record now. So I'm going to go ahead and record. What should I say? Welcome to our webinar on the 3. Okay, let's do something like that. So we'll go ahead and press record, and it's going to record a lip syncing and everything like that. So press space. Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar on 360 head creation. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. And I was looking at the character, so his eyes are going to be looking to his bottom right most of the time. I was looking at the character animation there. Okay, but there's our result. Really quick and simple, like facial animation. Again, when you're dealing with characters that have facial sprite changes like these ones do, accuracy for lip sync is not the most important thing. Obviously, you want to be as accurate as possible, but it doesn't have to be completely accurate for lip syncing, because if you're using facial capture in something like iClone, where your mouth expressions are morphing from one shape to the next, then lip syncing becomes very bad. Lip syncing becomes very noticeable. However, with sprite changes like this, not too bad. Let's go ahead and play this back though. Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar on 360 head creation. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Okay, so that was a very good example of the sensitivity was very low. So when I spoke new words, the lip syncing wasn't exactly accurate. It would just kind of lag behind. Not lag behind, but there was less visine shapes. There was less switching between different visine shapes. Let's try this one more time with a higher sensitivity, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and right-click my character and remove object animation. And that's gonna remove all the animation on my character, okay? Not sure why he has that neutral pose. But let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and set 0 pose here. Okay, and then we'll preview one more time. Oh, maybe I need to set 0 pose again. Seems like my mouth, there we go. Something may be a bit off with my mouth. Okay, let's give that a shot with the sensitivity at a higher level. I think it's because our sprite is at the beginning is different. Let's try, let's actually try starting a new project here. So that'll fix the, bring in our actor there one more time. Where is he? Where are you, Chad? There you are. Okay, and then we'll bring in Barrett's head, and we'll try it from scratch. Normally when you remove all the animation, it works, but in this case, it seems to have left some custom sprite changes on there, or left some sprite changes on there. All right, and there's Barrett. That doesn't really matter, but we'll take his neck down. Oh, darn, we have to replace all the sprites too. Gosh darn it. All right, let's just do this really quick here. Wish I had that character saved. Do I have it saved? I may have it saved. Nope, Barrett's not saved. Let's go ahead and just do that really quick here. Brow. Let's keep these flat brows here. I like this particular character here. And eyes. Sorry about that, guys. Let's just use these eyes, and the mouth. I realized I should have saved the character, and then this. If you save the character, then you don't have to go through this all again. All right, let's just bring him in. Resize, reposition slightly. There you go. And there we go. We'll just work with that. Sorry about that little delay there. There we go. We'll work with this. All right. Maybe the eyebrows are different sizes, but let's go ahead and use that for now. Okay, so same process, plugins, and make sure that your character is connected like this and like this. All right, and let's give it another shot. So preview. Okay, set 0 pose. Okay, good enough. So what I'm going to do is do a quick animation again with the sensitivity higher. So right now the sensitivity is at lip sync sensitivity at 4. You can take it to like 4. I think it should be good. So if we record. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Okay, I think I was looking at the camera that time. I'm really bad at this, but yeah, okay. So I'm mostly looking at my eyes are darting back and forth. But now you can see there's a lot more sprite changes on the mouth there. So, hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Okay, so I'm a lot happier with that result. In this case, the higher sensitivity was a lot better for us. And if we want to see all the different sprites that were created, hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. Let's quickly, okay, let's get out of the Mocap now, since you're familiar with Mocap, so we can disconnect the server. It's okay, I'll keep myself in the background just in case. So if you want to modify that facial animation, what you want to do is press F3 and go into the timeline. And all the face stuff will be in the face track, all right? So in the face track, you'll have your voice clip. Under voice clip is where, let's make this a little bit bigger. Under voice clip is where you'll have your audio file, which is this one right here. You can click and drag. Hey everyone. And these little things down here, these are our keyframes for our visine shapes. So if we double click on, like you see this one is woo. If we double click on it, it'll bring up our lips editor panel. And we can change that to whatever shape we want. Okay, we can add them in there as well. In this case, expressiveness doesn't really do anything, okay, since it's not really morph. It's only sprite switching, okay? So don't worry about expressiveness in this case. You can add and remove and customize these positions of these keyframes, right? And here's our puppet clip, all right? So the puppet clip contains all the keyframes for the face and the eyes. You can see it generates a bunch of keyframes here for the eyes, the head, and the face. That's what the facial mocap will automatically do. And you can remove these, you can modify these as well if you want. So right now there's head movement. All these keyframes right here constitute head movement. All these ones right here constitute face movement, and these ones here are eye movement. And under facial motion, this is a whole another bucket of worms I won't open right now. All right, but those are the main ones that you want to focus on. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. If you want, I can, switch a sprite, for example, layer on top. So after I say, hey everyone, as I'm saying, hey everyone, if I select my eyes, I can select my character, or go into the Sprite Editor rather, and select his eyes. And I can change the eye to something like smile close, right? It's right here, smile close. And you can see it'll open up the sprite track for the left eye and the right eye. Left eye _S stands for sprite. T stands for transform. D stands for deform. We won't talk about that right now, though. Okay, so when we do this, hey everyone, welcome to. So after saying hey everyone, I smile like that, then I can go back to my normal eyes. And you can see it'll add another keyframe there in my left eye sprite track. And I'll select the right eye and do the same thing, back to normal. Okay, so then we have this. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head. Just a quick little addition to make it seem a bit more friendly. Another thing I could do is I could change the position of the eyebrows. As my eyes are, squinting like this in a friendly manner. I sound like a robot. As he's squinting in a friendly manner. What I can do is maybe raise the eyebrows a little bit. And the way you do that is using the face key editor. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain here is that after you've done your capture, you can modify it and customize it in various different ways as well. Okay, so for this one, what I would want to do is at this point, I would go to the transform tab and I would take my left eyebrow right here and I would just say, let's add a keyframe. To add a keyframe, we can just say a reset sprite. Okay, and then I'd go to this frame right here. And I would raise my eyebrow like this maybe. Okay. And one, keep it there. At this frame, maybe just move it a little bit to add another frame there. And then here, I would go ahead and reset sprite. And that's going to reset it back to the original point. Now, let's go to the right brow just so we can see that. Okay, let's get rid of our right eye. So right brow. So what I did is, you can see right now it's in the transform track here. So at this point here, if I just double click on that, it'll actually automatically bring up the face key editor. If you double click on the keyframe, what I just did there, it'll automatically bring this up as well. I reset sprite to add that keyframe right there, this one right here. And at this point, I raise it. See, from here to here, the eyebrow is raising. And then from here to here, it's staying raised. And then from here to here, it's lowering back down. It's the same process for the left brow, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and load up the left brow. We're going to take out the right brow and bring in the left brow here, okay? So we're only going to be using the transform track. So right here, we can go ahead, left brow, and press reset sprite. It's going to add a keyframe. And right here, this frame here is where we bring it all the way to the top. And then we keep it at the top. To about this frame here. And just move it a little bit. So I'll add a keyframe right there. And then when this one comes down, we'll reset sprite and bring it back down there. So that's the same process, but now you can see the keyframes being created. So what we did there is we just, as he's kind of smiling, hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head. Okay, so his eyebrows go up as he's smiling. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. Right, and that's basic ways you can layer on top. You can deform the sprites, you can transform them, you can move them, you can change the layers and all that stuff. But that's for another webinar. I think it's time to get to the Q&A section here. So if you guys have any questions about the process, creating the character's head or animating the character's head, feel free to put those questions right now in the QA panel, and I'll get to those right away. In the QA section, not the chat section. Okay, so first question is from Stephen Ryan asking, can you add to the template section of the face key editor? The template section of the face key editor, so let's go to the face key editor right here, this template section right now. You can't add to these templates, but you can modify them. There's detail settings down here. So you can adjust these detail settings. That gets into a lot of detail. You can see with this happy 7, for example, what these are these are basically expression templates. These expression styles right here. We have something like happy, happy 2, happy 6. How can I explain this? Templates are basically just, if you put a template onto a character, their faces, it's just basically a number of different sprite modifications that you've, or rather, changes to the position and deform values of the sprite. Okay, so a happy will change the position and the deform. You can see here, the eyes are wider, the eyebrow is a different height. Here, the eyebrow is lower, the eye is a different shape. Okay, so the shape, like I mentioned, is a deform, and the position is the transform. Okay, so you can't add to these, unfortunately, but you can modify them in the details section here. You can brow raise outer right, so you can adjust the brow. This is the default for this template. Okay, you can adjust that value. This gets a bit more advanced, so I think this is more beginner webinar. If you guys want to learn more about that, I can certainly help you out. If you have more questions about it, feel free to ask me. But again, this gets into a lot of detail, kind of beyond the beginner level. But I'm more than happy to explain it if you guys want to learn more about it. But to answer your question there, Stephen, yeah, unfortunately, you can't add different other templates to that section there. Okay, so another question from Stephen. How do you create your own set of eyes or set of mouths with different mouth position sprites? Okay, so good question. That one, so I showed you before, the head that we created only had a single mouth sprite. If you want to create different mouth sprites, what you want to do is go into your, let's actually load up our character in Photoshop here. By the way, a new feature with Cartoon Animator 4 is you can actually load your character directly from stage mode. So you don't need to go into composer mode anymore. there's a Photoshop, launched a Photoshop option right here. Okay. You can open the file here. Oh, sorry, this is actually like for importing. This is not exporting. So you can import a new object or a file or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of the creating a new object or whatever. But we do have to go into composer mode for this case. New motion and new character. So it'll remove the animation. That's fine. Okay. I think you already kind of saw the animation. So let's take our character into Photoshop. Again, this is using the pipeline version, so launch Psd Editor. And what you would do is basically you would just add more sprites onto your character's face. So this character already has a library of sprites. So if we take a look at the talking head, RL talking head, it's only a front-facing character, so it only has a center profile. And when we go to like the eye, for example, you can see this iris right here. Okay. There's a number of different eyes. Under left eye, you'll see normal. You'll see smile closed, which is this one right here. If we remove normal and show smile closed, we have to show the iris here. Okay, that's the iris for smile closed. This is the iris for normal, and that's the iris for smile closed. You can show them at the same time or whatever. Scare closed would be this one. Okay, you show the iris for that. But you'd have to, of course, make the other invisible. Okay. So all you want to do is you just want to add different sprites in here. You can add as many as you want, really. Okay. Again, just create a folder for it. You can call the folder whatever you want. You can call it like stupid eye or something like that. We can give it like a hot dog eye, for example. If I wanted to do that, I can go ahead left eye and just create a new folder in there as well. Oops, I need to go down here. Let's call it, let's give it a pancake eye. What's the folder I created called? Oh, where did I move that to? Group 2, there we go. I'm not sure where the other one went. Okay, let's call it pancake eye. Pancake eye. Like that. Okay, so under pancake eye, let's bring in the pancake. Zoop. And zoop. And zoop. So this would work well if you wanted a character who's like greedy, like Scrooge McDuck or something like that. You'd have like money symbols for the eyes. Okay, so pancakes, and make sure that's in the pancake eye folder. Okay, just like that. And make sure it's submitted. So rasterize the layer and everything. Yeah, okay, good. And you can make it invisible. And then if we go file and save, it should update with the new pancake eye sprite for his left eye in Cartoon Animator 4. Okay, so now we take, oops, let's zoom in a little bit. Take a look at the left eye in the Sprite Editor. You should have the pancake eye in here. Not sure why that didn't show up. Yes. Maybe we have to create a sprite here first. So add new sprite. Yeah, we could just call it, it should be able to update from here. I think this one might be for replacing only. Photoshop is for replacing only. Let me see. Yeah. So you can replace the current sprite, but I think you'd have to create an empty sprite to do that. Let's try this method here. I haven't used Cartoon Animator for ages, so I haven't done this in a while. That should work though. I'm not sure why that didn't work. Let's find a file here. There you go. That's an easier way to do it, I guess. But that should work. But I think now once you export it to, I guess you have to create the sprite first and then export it and then put the stuff in that sprite folder. You can't just add the folders in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and see. Let's close this one down here. So now if I took that character into Photoshop. So again, in the let's make it a bit larger here. Zoop. Right, and we need to go into bone mode to make that larger. And let's see if we take this character now into oops, yeah, into Photoshop mode here. Then we should see the folder for that pancake eye. So I think the process would be to let's make sure that I'm right here. Left eye, was it? Yes. All right, there you see pancakes. All right, so that's the process you need to go through. So it seems like you need to create the sprite first. The recommended process would be to create the sprite first in Cartoon Animator 4 and then export it to Photoshop, just to make sure you have that folder that's, I guess the folder has to be generated by Cartoon Animator 4 first before it's recognized. All right, so that's the way that you would add sprites to your character's eyes. Yeah, so that answers that question for you there. Sorry about the little roundabout there. Okay, so Julius asks, I don't have Photoshop or the pipeline version. Is it possible to edit the color of sprites with a simple program like Microsoft Paint? Yeah, totally. As long as you can, like any image editor like Microsoft Paint is fine. As long as it can change the color of your sprite, that's super easy. So I'll show you the process. Basically, it's the same process that I followed earlier with the torso there when I added the pancake shirt and everything. Whoops, I'm adding showing myself there. If I want to, say, for example, change my character's lips color right there, what I would do is I would launch external image editor right here, and that would show me the pink lips. I can make his lips blue, for example. Maybe he's really cold, and we can just I don't know, fill that in. Where's the fill tool again? Oh, this one, yes. Okay, give him some blue lips, file save. Yeah, that should change him to blue lips there. There you go. All right, really simple and easy process, and that doesn't need you don't need the pipeline version for that. But again, you can only do each part individually for that. If I Control Z and do that, I believe it should restore his lips back to the pink color, to a healthy pink color. All right, there you go. Yeah, I hope that answers your question there, Julius. And again, that doesn't need to be Photoshop. If you, yeah, so that kind of showed you the Photoshop process. But if you did want to do that using a sprite, again, you would go to the sprite mode here, and you would replace that sprite. So you would go here and select it, but you would go replace, this one right here, replace current sprite, and you would replace it with those blue lips that I showed earlier. We could replace it with pancakes if we wanted to. Give him some pancake lips. And you know, there you go. That's his normal mouth there. All right. Anyways, but generally you probably wouldn't want to do that. But that's how you can replace stuff. You just need to select replace sprite and find that image wherever it is on your computer. All right, so let's just get rid of his pancake mouth there. And next question from Vikash. Are there a lot of character illustrations available online? What are the steps to making a custom character using AI Illustrator files? Currently, we're still working on getting vector support for vector-based characters. All the characters right now are not vector-based. Okay, they're image-based. So if you zoom in a lot on the character, you'll notice, you know, some things like a little bit of blurriness along the edge here, for example, like this. All right, this wouldn't happen with a Adobe Illustrator character, but we're still working on getting that support. So the only restriction right now is you can't zoom in really close on your character like this, and otherwise it might look a little bit strange. Okay, try to keep it at a distance. Yeah, unfortunately, Vikash, there's no Illustrator templates right now, but we are working on that for future patches here. Okay, so Valeria asks, how did you make the head a PSD? So I think a process that I may have skipped over a little bit is what you get with the pipeline version is, again, the benefit of having these templates. So any character that I have, I'll scroll back into stage mode here. Any character that I have, like Ted, for example, what you would want to do, again, the pipeline version does come with templates, so you don't have to do this, what I'm showing you right now, but I'm showing you what we need to go to template here. Just to bring in a character, let's bring in good old Ted again here under G3 came in. Every character in Cartoon Animator 4 is a template. So if I take Ted and I export him to Photoshop in composer mode again here, what I did to make that head is I just replaced all these sprites on Ted. Yeah, that rhymes. So just take Ted and go into Photoshop like this. You can choose head and body in separate files, okay? And just choose body scale and head scale, and it'll just launch both like this. Okay, so here's the head file and the body file. So this kind of may be a bit easier to do this if you're only changing the head to export them separately, because you can close down the body and focus on the head. But you can see here RL talking head. We have the bones, and we have all the images here. Okay, so all I did, and again, this is not a fast process, so I can't really show you on this webinar, but is just replace all these images. Okay, I just replaced the one for normal, which is this one right here. Okay, for the left brow, just replace that with whatever brow you want, whatever image you want. You can change the color, and then just basically save this as a separate PSD file. Okay, so go file, save as, and just save it as a PSD. Let's save it to our desktop. Sample, we'll call it sample Ted. Okay. And then if I click and drag that sample Ted into Cartoon Animator, oops, make sure we're in stage mode. Let's delete Ted. So click and drag sample Ted into Cartoon Animator. It's going to do the same thing that happened earlier when I imported the Barrett head in. Okay, except obviously in this case I haven't replaced anything. There you go. So it'll show the head, and then you just want to go ahead and replace all that stuff and save it as a head, save it as a custom head, and then you can pop it onto any character. Where is it here? Oh, there it is. So it's a pretty big head. We'll maybe decrease it in size a little bit. We can go to the content manager again, actor, or rather the custom tab, head, and I've already saved Ted's head at some point, so you can just press plus here and save it as sample Ted. And once that's loaded up, then you can apply it to any character you want. Sample Ted. Okay, so you can just click and drag sample Ted's head onto this body. And whenever you do that, keep in mind you'll actually keep the animation. So this will be Ted's head animated with the same process that I had, or the same animation that I had earlier. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360 head creation webinar. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Okay, so that's a pretty simple process to save and replace the head. Again, the whole thing that I didn't do was customizing it in Photoshop, which takes a bit of time. So we won't do that in this webinar here. Okay, let's go to the next question. Alan asks, how to make the face look narrower as it turns to the side? Left eye gets narrow for perspective. That's a very good question. I think that's a good one to show for you guys here. So with our character, let's take him back into composer mode, and we'll do the quick modification just to show you how you can make the eye narrower in 360 mode. That's using the deform. Okay, so let's go back into 360 Head Creator. And again, you can see all the same data that I saved earlier. All right, we'll get out of this mode for here. And if you want to make that eye narrower, you just basically select it. Let's remove the bones. And you just change the size of it like this. This one doesn't seem to be able to. So the nose is one like sprite I could really modify in this one. Let's go ahead and try and select the nose here. There you go. And you should be able to go over deform here, the deform tab. Very important. And you can adjust it like this way. So we can make the nose more narrow, like that. See what we're doing there? We can also give it a bit more of a point, like that. All right. So that what's going to happen then is at this point, our nose is going to be more narrow and going to be more deformed towards this direction here, okay? So maybe we want this side to be a bit straighter and this side to be a bit more sticking out. So we take everything like this. Maybe I just take this a bit out like that, okay? And then I would go to transform. By the way, you can change to 3x3 to 2x2. The default is 3x3 in this case. And we'll go to transform and maybe move that nose a bit further. So now what's going to happen is the nose will go further, and as it moves, it'll deform. Okay, you can see the deform happening as it moves, and now it'll move further. We can make that even further by going like this, like that, and then if the nose is sticking up on the top like that, we don't want that. We can go to deform and take this nose back like that. Okay, and then preview, and then it would be like this. So now the nose is kind of going off of the character's face, right? But then again, once you do that, you'd have to modify all the other ones as well. So now it looks like weird because his nose is going back to the whatever position at this point here, okay? But that you would have to modify it and morph that and deform it for all the other points at least on one side as well. All right, so hopefully that answered your question there, Alan. Next question from Luis Salazar. How do you edit a character with big ears like Bugs Bunny? Every character, what I can say is fairly generic response, but every character presents different challenges. Like certain characters have, different sizes of nose. So some characters have different sizes of teeth. Bunny ears, I mean, this guy could just as well have bunny ears. It's not really that difficult to create those ears. But however, if I were to create a character with ears, long ears like Bugs Bunny, what I would do is I would probably attach props or I would probably attach props with bones to your character's head. All right, because that would be able to move them like back and forth and around and stuff as accessories to your character's head. All right, but not really that much different from what I just showed. I think having the character with larger ears, just all I would do is just use the deform to resize the ears basically. And like I said, different characters have different challenges. So that's I can't really show you because I don't have a large eared character as an example to show right now, but that's just my kind of generic advice, just using the same process that we just kind of showed here. Any questions, you can always email me as well. My email is kai@reallusion.com, kai@reallusion.com. If you want to, give me the character, send over the character you're working on. I can kind of give you some advice if you want. All right, let's go on to the next question though from Hudson. If your character has beard or facial hair, does it always need to be on the same layer as their hair in Photoshop? So the layer order in Photoshop, it's not going to be, what's the most important thing is your layer order in Cartoon Animator, all right? The layer order in Photoshop doesn't really matter, but in Cartoon Animator, you want to make sure that your layer order is correct. It doesn't need to be on the same layer in Photoshop, as far as I know, because you can manually move it from layer to layer, all right? Hopefully that answers that question for you there, Hudson. Not a requirement, I don't think. So Steven asks, can the new eyes that you just created be brought into the content manager by themselves for use on different characters? I believe you can save eyes to the content manager under head. Yeah, you can save under custom. You can save custom eyes as well. So all you would do is you would just save that the same way I saved the head earlier. You just go to eye, custom eye, and then press the plus key to save this character's eyes. And then you could use them on other characters, just like replacing the head, same thing. All right. Okay, hope that answers that question. Next question is from Sylvain Lisotte. Kai, did you have trouble with the version 4.11 when you transferred to Photoshop? Yeah, I think that whole, I've actually never really tried that before, that whole shenanigans that I tried to pull earlier by just creating a folder and naming it in Photoshop. I guess what you have to do, so because if you want character, or not character creator, if you want Cartoon Animator 4 to recognize that folder, you have to export it first from Cartoon Animator 4. And I think that does make sense, because when it exports, it'll like have this metadata that'll allow it to be able to recognize that that folder with future imports. So yeah, don't follow the first process I went through. Follow the second process I went through troubleshooting, where you create the sprite first in Cartoon Animator 4, and now that will automatically generate the respective folder when you export it into Photoshop. So Luis asked about animating the ears. So with your character, let's go back into stage mode. I'll just show you quickly animating this character's ears. You go into the, whoops, not the face one, face key editor. Ears, you can't really do much. In Morph, you can kind of modify the facial stuff, but you can't really modify the ears. If, like I mentioned before, if I was to have a character with ears, what I would do is I would go to something like a prop here. Let's try and find a prop that maybe has bones. No, I don't think anything does. What are these things? Yeah, so an example here would be to, I'll go to an actor template here. So the G3, which one is it here? Maybe miscellaneous. Where's the, there's a worm guy somewhere here. Is it in this folder? G3, this one, spine, yeah, G3 spine. All right, so there's a caterpillar here. Just pretend this caterpillar is an ear. You can resize it if you want. You can, we can link it, all right? Link it to our character's head, all right? And I'm just gonna resize it. We'll just pretend this is a rabbit ear, all right? It could look like a rabbit ear. So this is what I'm talking about. You probably want to take a G3 spine, and there's spine creation, or there's character creation tutorials that talk about this, how to create this caterpillar character. To create a new character, you can also go up here and create character with a spine, or you can just use this template and replace the sprite. If I had a bunny ear, I would do that. But here you just go ahead and animate this using the 2D motion key editor. And so you would take your character's bunny ear and go like this. Wee, okay. So for example, maybe it starts right here, and then right here, move it this way, and then here, move it back that way. So the character would be talking, and yeah, I need to do this one. And as he's talking, the ear would be animating. So it'd be like this. Hey everyone, welcome to our 360. Okay. So that's how I would animate like bunny ears. Hopefully that's clear to you, but you have to go again through that whole process of creating the character. And it is in our learning center. This one's learning center, I believe. Nope. Learn tutorials. Creating all those characters is in the learning center, I believe, under. Yeah, wait, not 360 head creation, G3 character creation, I think. Yeah, these ones right here. So creating a G3 spine character, that's the one that you want to look at there for creating those ears. So your character will technically be, or your ear will technically be a character, a G3 spine character. That's the way that I would try to animate rabbit ears. It probably would give you the most options. Okay, yeah, Photo P works. Kurt reminded us here that Photo P works as well for the Photoshop pipeline stuff. So if you have Photo P, really good program. So Wade Newman here asks, with that template folder image open, we can edit on that layer, right? Rather than just swap out. Yeah, totally. You can just edit on that layer. You can draw like graffiti on it or something, whatever you want. That's fine. the image in that layer folder is yours to do with and as you please, and it'll update when you save it in Cartoon Animator 4. So Valeria asks, is it possible to record a face with expressions and lip sync, not live, if I don't have the 2D facial mocap plugin? Yeah, if you don't have the 2D facial mocap plugin, unfortunately, you can't use your own face to animate the character. But there's a lot of other options as well. Like I showed you, the option that I like to use is the facial puppet tool, which is this one right here. This one's like super easy and super good to use. You just choose a profile at the top, like this dude character. You can give him a happy expression, and basically you can just record this, over top of any lip syncing you've done. That's a tool. I mean, that's the whole process for another day, but yeah, there's lots of tutorials on our Learning Center on how to do the facial animation as well. All right. So the version of Sylvain asks, the version of Cartoon Animator I'm using, let's find out. It is this one, version 4.11.1123.1. As far as I know, this is the latest updated version. If you're not sure if you have the latest updated version, go to your Reallusion hub. You guys should all have this. It says right now all my products are up to date, so that's fine. And here's all the products. You can find your products here, and you go to updates and update whatever one you need to update. But that's the 4.11 is the current version, I believe. Okay. Julius asks, is there a default folder that all character sprites are installed to? Can they be accessed by an external editor and then saved under a new file name? Yeah, so again, you just have to use the template. All the sprites are installed into those default folders for the templates. Yeah, they can definitely be, you can definitely modify them in an external editor and save them under a new name. Wait a sec here. Caveat here is you need to keep the folder name the same. Like I mentioned, the folder name is very important because, like I mentioned before, the folder name corresponds to your layer name in Cartoon Animator. So you want to keep the naming consistent, okay? Now you can add stuff like I showed earlier with the pancake eyes, but when you modify them and you're not linked using the Photoshop pipeline, you want to make sure that the naming is consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so don't change the names of the stuff. All right, of the layers in Photoshop, layer folders rather. Images doesn't really matter. The layer folders I think is the most important. So Luis also mentions here you can use Affinity Designer, which is like Photoshop. Yeah, Photopea and Affinity Designer are both really good programs. GIMP is another free to use program, good photo editor. A little bit slower than Photoshop, but you can certainly use anything you want. I'm not a huge fan of the new requirement to keep on logging in every time I want to use Photoshop, but I'm kind of stuck in the whole Adobe cycle, and they do have fantastic tools. Not saying anything bad about Adobe's tools, but yeah, there are certainly other options like Affinity Designer. I'm not sure if I have. Inkscape is one I use as an alternate to Illustrator. I don't think I have Affinity. I thought I had it installed in this one, but yeah, certainly a great program, Affinity Designer. Highly recommended, and cheaper than Photoshop as well in the long term. But really depends when you get if you want to go monthly versus perpetual license. That's a whole nother can of worms. So I won't open right now though. Okay, next question from Steven. For automated mouth animation, are the number of phonemes, mouth shapes predetermined? So Steven, to answer that question, when I did the example using the lower sensitivity on the facial animation, the lower sensitivity will create less vising keyframes, okay? The higher sensitivity will create more vising keyframes. So when I did it the first time, you may recall that I didn't really feel satisfied with the number of vising shapes. It's like my character was talking, but the lips weren't moving. So it wasn't creating enough phoneme shapes, all right? However, when I increased the sensitivity, it was creating more, which was what I wanted. So it is predetermined based on the sensitivity levels that you set for your facial mocap. Okay, next one again from Sylvain asks, when in stage mode and you use a side character facing left and you want to flip it to the right, can you show me how to flip a character? Flipping a character is super simple. Yeah. Let's take Athletic Tim, for example. The faceless guy that looks like a Wii trainer who plays basketball. Flipping a character using this tool up here, horizontal flip. Wacha, wacha. All right. You can just flip the character back and forth. You can flip him vertical too. Whoops. Now he's upside down. Whoops. All right. Horizontal flip, vertical flip. And keep in mind that's a keyframe that actually adds to your timeline as well. All right. That's flipping. Anonymous attendee says, will it be better to prevent the ears from popping in front of the hair? And can they be colored as one sprite? Yeah, so I kind of showed you the process to prevent the popping of the ears. And like I mentioned, different characters will present different challenges. Like this character that this Barrett character that I used, he had one single like front hair sprite. So, it looks really weird with him. Like Ted, for example, not Ted, who's the other guy? Was it Rodney? You know what I'm talking about, the guy who had all the different hair shapes. I forget what his name was again, but he had so many different hair types or little hair sprites on his front hair, right? Remember? But if we look at this guy, he only has one single front hair. If we take off his front hair, he has nothing, right? Whereas the other guy had 7 different sprites as part of his hair. So this guy, the reason I use this guy is because it's more of a challenge, because you don't have as many options with the hair. His goatee and his front hair and everything like that are all one single sprite. So you don't have as many options to fix it. And that's why I want to use this character to show the weight you can put on each sprite switch. All right. Hopefully that answers your question there. Sheldon asks, do you know of any in-depth tutorial series using Affinity Designer for creating or modifying content of Cartoon Animator 4? Honestly, I haven't done any modification. I haven't done any Cartoon Animator 4 stuff using Affinity Designer. I've used it for other things in the past on different projects, but I haven't used it personally for Cartoon Animator 4. But I imagine, honestly, Googling would probably be the best option there. Go into YouTube and maybe search Affinity Designer and Cartoon Animator 4. That would be my best recommendation. But because I don't think we have any in particular in our learning center, to my knowledge. I don't think there's any that we specifically use Affinity Designer, as far as I know. I'm almost certain of that, unfortunately. So yeah, but same process with Photoshop, slightly different, but yeah, probably YouTube. Search on YouTube for that. Maybe Affinity Designer, Cartoon Animator 4 tutorial or something like that, or variations of that search should pop up something, if they are out there. So sorry about that we don't have that personally from us here at Reallusion. That's something we could consider adding in the future, though, more tutorials about Affinity Designer. And again, that's why we're sending out the survey to you guys. If you want more tutorials on Cartoon Animator 4 using Affinity Designer, definitely put that in the survey, and we'll get to producing those in the future. It might even be produced by yours truly. We'll see. All right. All right. Thank you, Sylvain, for attending. And Sheldon, yeah, it seems like you just have to wing it for Affinity Designer. But I think that about ends our webinar. That takes care of all the questions. So again, any further questions that pop up later, maybe just email me, kai@reallusion.com. I'd be happy to help you out with any project or advice you're working on. Yeah, but aside from that, make sure again, like you fill out the survey for the 10% discount. Any webinar topics you'd like to cover in the future, feel free to put those in the survey as well. And of course, you get that 10% discount for the content store. All right, so I'm going to sign off and have some dinner here. So thanks so much, everyone, for. Oh, we have one more here. So yeah, anonymous attendee asked about mouth sprites, popping as well. All of your sprites are going to be the same. Ear sprites, mouth sprites. The popping is going to range from character to character. There's not really much of a better response I can give than that, unless I have the character on hand. So then I can kind of provide you a demo for that. So apologies for that kind of non-answer. But again, you can always email me, and I'll take a look at that with more time a little bit later on. But yeah, like I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and have some dinner. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Hopefully you learned a lot in this webinar. And again, feel free to email me any further questions, kai@reallusion.com. And I really hope you enjoy your Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning, wherever you are in the world. And make sure you check out our website for future webinar tutorial or future webinars and tutorials. And yeah, I'll see you in the next webinar, I guess. Thanks, guys.